we come in on landing craft, and at that time, naturally, they just hit the ones that the front end of the landing craft fell forward, and you had to get off and get on the beach and duck as soon as possible. Absolute hell. In other words, you figure you're going to get killed in the next shot. You see so many people, so many dead, so many young kids dead, lying on the beaches and stuff like that, and it's a memory you never lose.
You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade.
To meet this mounting aggression.
And make no mistake about it, good will prevail.
A friend of mine joined the Marines, and he came home one day in his blues. And when I saw them blues, I said to myself, well, I have to have a set of them things. So anyway, I took my mother's my baptismal certificate out of my mother's bureau, and of course she was adamant about the fact that I wasn't going to join the Marines. I was going to stay in school and finish I only had a couple more months left in high school. Anyway, I went up to 90 Church Street. I grabbed my baptismal certificate and went up to 90 Church Street, handed my baptismal certificate to a rough-looking top sergeant up there in the Marine Corps. And he said to me, he opened it up and he said to me, he says, "Your name Ludovico Giuseppe Marcelli?" I says, "Hell no, my name is Oliver Joseph Marcelli." He said, "Well, that's not what it says on the birth certificate." But anyway, to make a very long story short, I joined the Marines at 90 Church Street in New York, and I had to go all through the Marine Corps as Ludovico Giuseppe Marcelli. And other than that, my name was Oliver Marcelli. I had it changed down here years ago. Well, when I first went to Parris Island, it was a tough deal. In fact, I understand that a lot of the folks that go through it now have it a lot easier than we did. We used to go on field trips and live in tents and outdoors and stuff like that, and have the live firing over our heads and all that stuff. And we didn't have to climb like they do today, though, with these ropes and stuff like that. We never had to do that, if I remember correctly. But anyway, it was a wonderful time in my life, and met a lot of comrades and a lot of friends. And not that I went overseas with them, but anyway, after we left boot camp, after I left boot camp, I was stationed at a naval gun factory in Washington, D.C. And after the naval gun factory, I was transferred to Anacostia Naval Air Station across the street, across the road, across the Potomac from the naval gun factory. And I always wanted to fly. And I used to fly all over with these desk jockeys that had to put in their flight skins every month. And the Navy guys used to tell me that I was nuts because these guys can't fly. They don't know how the hell to fly. But I used to fly all over the place with them. Land on a little field in North Carolina or someplace like that with these big silver planes. They were called SNJs at the time, I believe. And the whole town would come out to greet you because the lieutenant or whoever it was knew the folks there in the town. And it was a wonderful life. And I wanted to fly. That's what I wanted to do. But anyway, to make a very long story short again, I was going home on my Christmas leave, 1941, I believe it was, and I went in, I had my flight jacket on, and I had my goggles on, a helmet on and everything, and my parachute on and everything else, and I went into the top sergeant's office and handed him my leave paper, and he was on the telephone. And he put the telephone down and he said, "Marcelli?" I said, "Yes, sir, I'm going on Christmas leave. I'm going up to New Jersey, flying up to New Jersey." And he says, "All leaves are canceled." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, I said, "I'm going on my Christmas leave." He said, "The Japanese just bombed Pearl Harbor." So that was the end of that. No flying. I went nowhere. The first thing I knew was at California on board a troop ship, and away we went. Well, we boarded the troop ship, and I'm a terrible seaman, and they had a blackout naturally on the troop ships all going over, and we used to steal a couple of life jackets and get up top side and hang over the side of the ship and puke all night long over the side of the ship because I couldn't sleep. I get deadly sick, and that was one of the events. But we used to play cards and bullshit all over the place and play crap and everything else. And it was quite a time on the ship. You made a lot of friends and you made a lot of enemies, of course, if you won a lot of money. But we had a good time, and I didn't enjoy the sea trip, but we went to New Zealand. We stopped in New Zealand, and then they wanted to bivouac us in New Zealand, but they found out that it was overrun with mosquitoes, so they sure the hell didn't want us there. So our first stop was, I can't think of where the hell our first stop was, but it was one of the many islands there. They separated us. I was in C Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, and they separated us, and we went to several islands, and then finally we went to Guadalcanal, and then we went to, after we spent Christmas in Melbourne, Australia. Well, they give you a pep talk, naturally, before you get into the landing boat and go in, but that doesn't do much good. You're still scared shitless. We rendezvoused in circles, usually, before we landed, and the battleships would go right over our heads and on the shore. All kind of beautiful ships out there, beautiful battleships out there, bombarding the hell out of the land. All the coconut trees were destroyed, et cetera, et cetera. We landed on most of the islands. We only had 03 rifles, Springfield 03s, with the bolt action. We didn't have our M1s at the time. We got our M1s when we went to Melbourne, Australia, after we left Australia to go to Peleliu. Well, we saw a lot of dead Japanese, and a lot of our dead on the beaches too, a lot of them, and young kids. And we had a gentleman with us, Chesty Puller. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chesty Puller, but he was a mortar man, and he's one of the legendary Marines during the war. He fought all over the South Pacific during the war with the 1st Marine Division.
Do you remember seeing any of the naval battles off Guadalcanal? Any of the naval ones?
We saw them, yes. I can't think of the great one that we saw, but anyway, you could see all the lights from the battleships out there. That's what we saw. We stood out there and watched them for hours and hours.
Tell me about the American planes that landed at Henderson Field. What was that like to see?
They were the Grumman Hellcats, and like I said, that was the most beautiful sight I ever saw in the islands, whatever island we were on. And these guys came out of the planes, and again, I went up and ran up to them and talked to them, and I said, "Holy God!" I said, "Where the hell are you from?" and all that. This guy was from Iowa, and this guy was from all over the place, and they were just young kids. And I said to myself, "God, why the heck? Why did you put me here?" I wanted to fly one of them things so bad. I loved it.
Let's talk about Australia. When the division was sent there after Guadalcanal, what was Australia like?
Australia was a magnificent country, and we had a chance to get out to the outback and meet Aborigine people, et cetera, and it was just a stunning vacation that we really enjoyed. And I'll never forget Australia. I had a young lady there, and she thought we were going to get married, but I said, no, I'm going to wait till I get home. But anyway, it was a great time. And we used to go out to bars every night and dancing every night. And we, like I said, we had a couple of real close friends. I had a couple of real close friends. In fact, the day that we left to come back home, to go to Peleliu rather, I'll never forget that the dock was just loaded with Australians, people, the girlfriends and boyfriends and everything else, whatever you had. And all the people came out to see us in Melbourne. We got our M1 rifles. And if you were squad leaders, you got submachine guns and stuff like that or whatever. And whatever was issued to you. I had a BAR at one time, and I had a BAR assistant carrying ammunition. But anyway, that's the way it was. We got our M1s and away we went.
So talk about your getting to Peleliu. That
we come in on landing craft, and at that time, naturally, they just hit the ones that the front end of the landing craft fell forward, and you had to get off and get on the beach and duck as soon as possible. Yeah, there had a lot of Japanese on Peleliu. It was one of the worst battles, they said, that during the South Pacific War. You see so many people, so many dead, so many young kids dead, lying on the beaches and stuff like that, and it's a memory you never lose. Absolute hell. In other words, you figure you're going to get killed in the next shot, and that's the way it is, and that's the way you live after that. As I told a lot of these people that interviewed me, that you never get it out of your mind. You never get it out of your mind. As I haven't had I can't say that I've had a night's sleep ever since I've been back. And it's just a turmoil and the ringing in your ears from the cannon fire and the this and the that, and you just go on and on.
In terms of the Japanese soldier as a whole, how did you feel about a Japanese soldier?
Well, they're great soldiers. They died with valor. They died with valor, and no matter how many of them you killed, they died with valor. And I hate to say that, but that's the way it is. They were good soldiers. Well, I got hit the third day. That was on the island, and I got hit here across my here, and a shot in the leg, a lot of blood, and I had a corpsman there, I guess, if I remember correctly, and he stopped the blood, and they put me on the ship, and away we went. They just wanted to get everybody out of there that had any kind of a wound because of the fact that the infections that would set in. If anyone tells you that they had no effect, they're lying. But the majority of people that go into combat and live through it, like me, and 97 years old, I thank God every day. I pray to Him every day. My missus and I get up in the morning, and the first thing we do, she's saying her rosary, and I'm saying mine in my room, and we say our rosary every day. And before we go to bed at night, a lot of people ask us, how the hell did you ever live that long with one woman? 75 years. We're on our 75th year. And we tell everyone the same thing, that before we go to bed at night, I always tuck her in and make sure, because she falls a lot. And I tuck her in bed, make sure she's in bed, and I tell her that I love her. She tells me that she loves me, and that's the way we survived.